Today's lecture discusses vectors beta. Vectors, what we mean by vectors? In real sense, vectors is tool to calculate. Vectors is simply tool to calculate. For what? To calculate physical quantities. To calculate physical quantities which are having both magnitude and direction. So that is what we call as vector quantities. As in the earlier classes, when we discussed the topic regarding measurement, in measurement physics, we discussed a topic that is what we discussed is system of units. And in the system of units, dear, you got there the sense of physical quantity. In simple physical quantity, and you all get aware about that the physical quantity is simply a quantity which is always measured as magnitude in the sense of number and unit. Always we call this is a magnitude, and you got this in the previous class. Dear students, you know their n, it is number, or you simply call numerical value. And it is u. What mean u here? Here I have a size of some length in my hand. If I try to measure the length of this bow, white bow, I will make this length and count it how many times it get involved. How many times this length get involved to measure this board length? Definitely we get it near about 5 times. So I say the length of the board is 5 times the length of this small short length. We call as static. So simply, this is a scale to measure. We call this is suppose foot scale. So I call it is 5 foot. So here 5 is a number and foot is the unit. So what is this u? That is unit. You know it. Or a size. Or you call this as a standard to measure. So every quantity has a standard to measure in nature. Whatever we have the natural quantities observed in nature, all other quantities which get observed from them also got the sense of unit, and always their unit measure them in the number of times. Let us suppose we want to have the measurement of the geometry in my hand. What is the geometry, my dear? This simply geometrically a circle. What it got? It got the area. So the geometrical circle definitely got area as a quantity. And whenever we try to measure this circle in the area, always we get some measurement, and definitely that measurement will have a number and a unit. Let us suppose that I have got the area of that 100 times centimeter square length, because area is a quantity, as you know, is the size of one length multiple other length. When two lengths multiple in nature, always we definitely got length multiple, that is called as scale of the meter, that is called as area. So definitely beta, we go back on the today's topic, that is vectors, and we get the sense back what we have used in the previous class, that was simply a physical quantity in sense of magnitude is number and unit. But today we are going in the different attitude to measure the physical quantity in the sense of complete measurement. One thing is clear there, that in nature we have the physical quantities which have only magnitude. What we call today these quantities to be as? We call these as scalars, or you call them as scalar quantities. Scalars are scalar quantities. What is these quantities maybe beta? It is a similar concept which we have given in the previous class, the magnitude only. Means the quantities which get magnitude only. We call these to be as scalars. We have many quantities, we have a large number of such quantities in nature. Let us have the sense beta to memorize you the concept of scalars. You have the mass as a quantity. Never ever you require any direction to measure mass. Whosoever is a person to measure the mass, whatever may be a shopkeeper, whatever may be the student in the laboratory, whatever may be any person, an architecture to make any structure, everywhere when we use here we got the sense of shopkeeper for measuring the mass, like have the vegetable When there is having the vegetable masses to measure, let us have different fields to measure as a measurement of mass, and always mass doesn't need any direction for a measurable person to measure, though it is a scalar quantity. When you try to measure the length of the building, suppose we are in the classroom, it has the dimension of length, other dimensions as well, but in dimension of length simply, if I tell you anyone, try to measure the length of the room, you have a freedom to go. Whether you go from this side to that side, whether you go from east to west or north to south, whether you go in this side, that is east to west, or from back west to east. So does it affect their magnitude? So it is a length having only direction, having only magnitude, but no direction. Whenever we measure such quantities in sense, we call these to be as scalars. We call these as scalars. We have many and many quantities. We have mass, we have length, we have speed, we have work, we have energy, we can have simply here, we can have a quantity like which have only magnitude, we call here power, etc. We have many and many quantities like distance, which got only magnitude. But in nature, we will get the quantities definitely, which will get both magnitude as well as direction. Though we have a quantities which got both magnitude plus direction, a single direction of point. What we call these as? We call these as vectors we are discussing today. What in case of scalar quantities beta, the simple mathematical rules get involved. Suppose if we brought two to three things from the shop of mass, say we brought 1 kg of rice, we brought 2 kg of sugar, we brought 1 kg of tomato, and we bring them all in a one single bag, and we can have the total mass, that is 1 kg of tomato, 1 kg of rice equal to 2 kg, 1 plus 1 2 kg, and 2 kg of sugar equal to 2 plus 2 4 kg. So that is simply scalars are always measured through algebra, like addition, like difference, like multiple and division processes. But better remember, today we are discussing the quantities regarding vectors. These quantities have their own mathematical rule to measure. That is why in today's class we are studying the sense of vectors. And in this case we understand how the quantities which get both magnitude and direction get measured by vectors through the vector laws of mathematics. So they have their own laws to measure. That is why they are different than the scalars. No doubt beta, we will discuss them in detail, but briefly I will clear you one thing more. In nature, in physics, we will have faced many quantities of the nature having both magnitude plus direction, but not a single direction, many directions at a point. What we call such quantities in nature, we call them as tensors. But in brief, they also get measured in the involvement of mathematics as algebraically, as through algebraic laws, like scalars. That is why tensors are also called as scalars. We can have many examples. Let us take the simple example, my dear. Can anybody have any example regarding tensor? There is electric current. That is electric current. Suppose there are two wires, Y was coming, and at the junction point they are approaching. Using ammeter, find the current. Suppose it is 2 ampere. Using ammeter, find the current. Suppose it is 3 ampere as a magnitude. When this current straightforward go ahead, what we observe here, by using ammeter, what the current total is, suppose it is I1, suppose it is I2, let this be I1 plus, definitely it get measured directly by algebra as 2 plus 3, that is 5 amperes. So that means, no doubt it has a direction, but it get measured through algebra, by the rules of algebra. That is why it is not a vector. It is called as tensor and also always belongs to scalars. But today beta, what the chapter we are dealing with, yet we have not started our chapter. We only give the examples to remind you people, your past lectures of your previous chapters, which helps you to understand these vectors in the better sense. Although we know vector is a mathematical tool, But in the sense of physics, we utilize it because we are going to measure the mechanical rules in nature. Like we are going to measure the motion concepts in mechanics. We are going to measure the motion of a plane. We are going to measure the projectiles. We are going to measure the circular motion, and we are going to deal the numericals which get observed in the previous NEET and JEE papers. Inshallah, we'll get it ahead.